Okay, so today we're going over a basic vocab for geometry. So a point is just an exact location in space. It is drawn by a point, and it's always labeled with a capital letter. So this would be labeled A. A line extends without end in either direction, and it has an arrow on each end, so we know that it's continuing. So it is labeled or named with 2 points on the line and a line with arrows on top of it. Or we could label it BA. Or, because it has this italicized letter there, it could be called line L. Alright, a segment is a part of a line, so it consists of endpoints and all the points in between. And it is labeled with the 2 points and just a straight line, no arrows. Okay, so the symbols are very important in geometry. A ray consists of one endpoint and it extends forever in the other direction. So we have our endpoint and then we have the arrow going. We label it, you always start with the endpoint. And so we'll start with B because that's the endpoint. And then A comes next, and the arrow goes that direction. So even though the arrow is pointing this way in the picture, it's labeled like this. Alright, opposite rays. They have the same endpoint and extend in opposite directions. So here we would label this C is in between the other two, so we would say CA and CB are those opposite rays. Alright, plane has 2 dimensions. It looks like any flat surface like a floor or a wall, but in theory it extends without end. And so you'd label this, if they give you the letter with no point beside it, we just call that plane M. Or we can label it by the 3 points on it. So that is our plane. Next are some basic terms. Is collinear are any 2 points. So collinear means they're on the same line. And in theory, any 2 points. Are collinear, because you can draw a line through any 2 points. Non-collinear means they are not on the same line. Coplanar is on the same plane. And again, by definition, any 3 points are coplanar, whether it's drawn that way or not. And then non-coplanar is not on the same plane. And then our last vocab word is skew lines, or 2 lines that do not intersect and are not parallel. So it's when you have a 3D object, like the bottom line here and that top line going that direction, they will never intersect, they're not parallel. Okay, so on this page, you're going to go ahead and pause the video and try these on your own. Alright, so hopefully you followed directions, you paused it and tried them on their own, so now we will go over the answers. So 2 other names for line CD is I could say DC, because order does not matter for a line. Or because they gave me this little symbol here, I could say line M. Another name for plane M, I can take 3 points on the plane. I'm not going to use ACB because those are in a straight line. That doesn't show me the plane. But I would use ACE. Or I could choose ABE. So any of those 3 points that aren't just in a straight line. Okay, so 3 points that are collinear would be our A, C, and B. A 4th point that is not collinear would be E or D, is not in the same line as those 3 points. And a point that is not coplanar with points A, C, and E would be point D up here. Okay, so moving into our next one, another name for segment PQ would be QP. Another name for line RS would be line SR. Or, because they gave us the K there, we have line K. All rays with endpoint T. So, I can go from T to R. I can come from T to S. Those are opposite. And then going on the other line, I can go TP and TQ, which again are opposite. And then it says to draw planes M and N, so I'm going to draw shapes that intersect at line K. So this could vary, but I know they're going to cross here at line K, so I'm going to have one plane coming out this direction. And I will label it M. And I'll have another plane coming out here and continuing down so I can show that it's 3D coming down behind there. And this one is labeled plane M. And so that's how I draw those. Okay, on to the last page of notes. Again, try on your own. And then check your answers. And here there's a lot of different variety for some of those. So 3 planes that intersect at point P would be the top here, so MNO. Or it could be PMN or any combination of those. We have QPO, and again any combination. It could be QTO or TOP, it could be any combination. But that's the front side of the cube. And then we have this side of the cube, which would be PMR. So there's lots of different ways to say this. This is just one example. Intersection of the plane PQO, so that's this front side here, and NMP is the top. Well, the intersection would be this line right here. So that would be segment PO. Or if we're dealing in theory of the plane continuing forever, you might call it line PO. 3 lines that intersect at point S. So that would be TS, and we're calling them lines here So we're dealing with the theory of them continuing, and so we're using this symbol. So TS, RS goes through there, and NS. And our points N, M, and Q collinear. So N, M, and Q, no, those are not collinear. Yes, they are coplanar because any 3 points are coplanar. Okay, so this is when, again, we're dealing theory, not what's written here. Some people have a hard time seeing this, but if I have N, M, and Q, well, I could, in theory, have a sideways plane coming down like this and filling in the center of that square. And so, yes, they are coplanar by definition, because any 3 points, you could draw a plane through them. Alright, so now we are down to our last figure. And so here, the intersection of plane X, Y, Z, which is the bottom pentagon there, and TVW would be this line right here. We're looking at where do those two planes overlap, and it would be our segment VW. 2 planes that intersect at XW, so I look at this side, and that's going to be the same plane XYZ. And my plane TXW. So 3 planes that intersect at point Z, so I have to look at which 3 sides intersect at point Z. So it's my TZY, my backside there is TZV, and then the bottom of XYZ. And that bottom could be labeled VZY, it could be labeled WVZ, it doesn't matter which letters you choose to represent the bottom there. Okay, so in this figure, are there any place where at least 4 planes intersect? And the answer is yes, because up here at plane T, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So 5 planes intersect at T. So that is your notes for today.